Yo, 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 what's up? What's up? Hey guys, it's Matt G here. Um, Getting ready for the KC Gun Show coming up next weekend from the date of this monstrosity. This is a historical documentary, When I picked up this uniform, we just kind of set it aside, took notes, what what's going on with it for the sake of reference and research, authentication purposes, yada yada yada. Anywho, as I was looking back over the notes and getting reacquainted with the case study, I was like, damn, dude, Big Red 1. I remember when I was younger. For Xbox came out Call of Duty Big Red 1. I'm playing that. Big Red 1's famous outfit and all the, yeah, the Big Red. Go Big Red. Hey, I'm from River City, so hailing from the Midwest, Go Big Red also refers to the Huskers. But, so it's kind of play on both days. But the grouping, the working title for this collection is, of course, Big Red. The reason being is a name is, sadly, it's absent, but at least we were able to save in the nick of time what remains materialistically from the person who this uniform belonged to. We actually got it a few weeks back in Walnut, Iowa, one of the permanent structured antique malls out there. This old woman has it. I can't remember it. I could take it and show it to you by location. I don't remember the name. I just wanted to know. We went there when the self-proclaimed antiques capital of the world was having their big shindig. They close off a majority of their streets, and vendors line up and down, and all the churches do like picnics, and it's this big antique fair, sale, bazaar is a better word for it, a vintage bazaar. We got it then, and it wasn't actually out on the floor for sale. I mean, it was, but it was kind of shoved behind behind where the display cases were in the employee section of this old lady's antique shop. So apparently, the uniform was a walk-in. It was brought in by someone who is supposedly their grandfather or father's uniform, and they had recently passed away. I think it was their father's, and they had recently passed away, and the daughter didn't see any point to, keeping it around anymore, and so she sold it to the old woman with the insignia still intact. Of course, this old woman is not a collector. She doesn't specialize in authentic militaria. She couldn't give two hoots about the attributed qualities of the collection, so she didn't bother to ask for a name. Right? She just hung it up along with M81 Woodlands pattern BDUs that have walked through the door, and bikers' leather jackets from the 1980s, whatever kind of vintage retro crap walks in through her storefront, looking to be wholesaled out to her so she can turn it and make a buck. So she had this tunic, and here it is right here. Specialist, as I said, Big Red 1, patch insignia, and it looks like I was looking at it underneath, it looks like he might have been private second class or private first class or something, because you can see the outline of either, I had it, I was looking at it, I was matching it up, looks like he had one or two chevrons sewn on there, and then he took those off and he put the specialist third class rank insignia on afterwards. The Big Red 1 patch, I think it's post-war, maybe like 1950s vintage. I don't know. I haven't taken it off, so I don't know if it has the cheesecloth backing, if it's World War II period issue. But the World War II period ones that I've generally seen, with the exception, of course, of theater-made insignia, tends to be like a little bit slimmer, thinner. I mean, just the standard USGI big red insignia that I've come across personally as a collector. But so that this ribbon bar is still intact. The CIB is not sterling, but whatever. The collar discs were not on there. You could see where they were, just like you could see where the shooting badge was, just like you could see where the DUI. That was the thing that pissed me off the most when we found this. I was like, oh my fuck, do you still have the DUI at least? Because that can help us pinpoint, at least within the general vicinity of who this person was and what exactly they did, based on the award arrangements, based on the division insignia, based on the dates of the uniform accessories, and but sadly those had already sold. See, this, like I said, this wasn't out on the sales floor. This was back behind the counter, and the only reason that we even got to it was because I pestered the old woman and saying like, hey, you guys got anything? What else you got? What else you got? Just sort of, the determined person gets the goal, or however you'd like this, however you want to say it. But she was like, oh, well, I'm in the process of piecing out and selling this. And I said, like, holy crap, is that, are you selling that? She's like, well, drips and drabs. And I'm like, shit. Did it come like that? And of course, the story, as I explained it for you, as it was explained to me, however fragmentary, however ambiguous it may be, it is the old woman is not the kind of person who throw this together. I am going to bed. Anywho, long story short, she was in the process of piecing out and selling these. She hadn't got to this yet, she hadn't got to that yet. She'd already sold the collar insignia, shooting badge, DUI. She sold the Army Meritorious Commendation ribbon. I sat there and I showed her like pictures of the ribbon bars to make sure she had already sold or she couldn't find. It was a good conduct ribbon, Army good conduct ribbon bar. That is MIA at this point. There is a Army Commendation medal, and there is a Purple Heart, and there is a National Defense. And this ribbon bar she hadn't cannibalized yet, but those are the other ribbon bars. She couldn't remember where she found the backing. She was just going to throw them in a bag and let God sort it out. But you never see these groupings, Vietnam era dress uniform, unless they're like a high-ranking officer or like a career military person, somebody who was in like a group we had. Phil Mook. All right. The William Mook collection is what I'm thinking of. He was in World War II, he was in Korea, and he was in Vietnam. Now, those kind of groupings generally are still together, like generals, things like that. But just dudes who are down in the trenches, of course, Vietnam was a very controversial era. A lot of guys came home. All the blowback from ignorant ding-dongs who, despite the fact that I agree with the counterculture movement and the war as well, I wouldn't take it out on people who, many of whom were conscripts, who had no, they could have been shot for derelict of duty or, treason. But the groups don't survive, or they haven't, or they're very rare. You get them and they don't have the insignia, and it's like, we don't have a name for this guy. is his stuff. And like I said, from what I was able to preserve thus far as we came into the shop, at least among us fellow collectors, we can keep this grouping as, you know, something that we preserve for future generations, a really neat looking piece. But like I said, I was, getting curious about the history and background, so I read up on Big Red One in the Vietnam era. But pretty much every documentary that I found, or any sort of historical, social scientific footage, material available currently was largely about the World War II exploits, even though the Big Red One has been around. Big Red's unit history extends all the way back to the Revolutionary War. One thing I did find, and let me search that up here real quick. It was submitted by submitted. And it's actually a period piece of media. So it's a history lesson, a history book, but also a first-hand source, so to speak. Now, also, this is, of course, a tool of U.S. GI propaganda, so things tend to be glossed over into a favorable light on the U.S. What? I'm talking to the screen. So, some of the exploits take it a grain of salt, but in general, it still is a good reference aid. And until the revisionists can go back and substantiate the full scope of its authenticity as far as being factually relevant, in addition to historically whatever else relevant, it'll have to do. It's by the video was originally posted courtesy of Iguana Productions. I'm going to play that for you now, mixed in here with more information on ongoing research. I should say research is ongoing. As far as this guy, I made some placement, good conduct ribbons, and of course bars for the ribbon bars. Well, this is a single. Apparently, he had Purple Heart after the commendation ribbon, and he had his Army commendation. No, not commendation. Commendation. Semantics fail. But he had this on top, and then another three-piece, I'm presuming, Purple Heart, good conduct, and national defense. So we're going to get another good conduct. I don't know what the DUI is. So I'm just going to leave it blank. You can still see where that was. I'll get some sort of period shooting badge if I can. Something that's fucking reasonable in the realm of plausibility as far as his rank, his other insignia. Of course, we're leaving the insignia, it's already on the attack. Get another meritorious Army commendation for the other sleeve. And there was a visor hat, she already sold it. But true flea market grab bag fashion. So here are the notes that I put up. have his hat badge. What's the hat badge? He has his hat badge and his trouser belt. So I need the belt. I don't know if I'll get a belt or not, but like I said, true flame on that band finish. This old lady just started ripping it apart, you know, going for the eyes, selling it separately, no thought or consideration for the grouping as it stood. If we would have been the ones getting the uniform, we would have taken name, rank, serial number, anything, preserving the grouping, passing on to our fellow collectors, or keeping for ourselves a legit, fully attributed work. Now, it's fragmentary, but this is the guy. I mean, the sources we got it from, they're not in the habit of putting things together. And while, we may do that, like the East German uniforms, put a helmet with it, put a hat, yeah, we put that kind of stuff together, but we're also collectors. And to be quite honest, even if we don't sell this right away, or nobody wants to pay what I believe is a fair price, what my dad calls, what Pops would say is a museum price, nobody wants to pay that kind of price for a good piece of partially substantiated, the Big Red collection. It's awesome. It's there. That takes time. Recording all that stuff. So, like I said, I took down the notes, and saved it. Like I said, she was in the process of splitting it up, but we grabbed it just in the nick of time. And so, what is there, we shall preserve as thus. And hopefully, we're going to go to INF Surplus, see our good friend and fellow merchant, Andrew, try to get a Vietnam era hat to replace that, and a good conduct ribbon bar, and maybe a belt. I don't know. If we, I'm at least going to put that together. If I can get a belt affordable, throw that in. Sure. If not, okay, whatever. Someone might say, well, technically, it's not his, good conduct ribbon. You don't have a name. I don't buy it. Buy the item at the store. It's like, dude, why does it have to be a choice? In the circumstances of OTM collections, it is our motto, both. In a world where people either buy stories or items, but we choose to see both. So, what is there is there. Like I said, it's a collector myself. It's cool. Once we get the shop space up and running and everything's operational, we get displays, I would be just as psyched about setting them up and displaying the whole spread and exhibits, collection, shop space. Something just do not see. You see a lot of World War II groupings. You see a few Korean groupings, but again, not nearly as many as World War II grouping is more desirable. In the free market, did you make government money? The amount of money what you bring, the worth varies from tunic to tunic. Is it a night jacket? Is it an M41? Is it an M43 field jacket? Is it an actual dress, like Class A style? Uniform. What is it a summer officer's tunic, khaki? Is it green? Winter officer's uniform. These things depend. There's a couple collectors who have come across. They like how they look, and they're just kind of, as my dad, as Pops would say, Mickey Mouse collectors. A tunic's a tunic. I get old women, sometimes they give them to me for free, and crap like that. And it's like, man, yeah, okay. A Fifth Army Ike jacket with a field repair that I threw a ribbon and part of a shooting badge on just to throw something on is not going to fetch nearly the amount or hold, nearly the value as an officer's tank destroyer's 771st Division, Armored Division dress uniform. That even though it's not a combat tunic, it's a dress tunic. It's a rare unit, and again, that was another group that we had that we sold. That there wasn't a name, but the grouping was all there as it came from the estate. We were the second in line to receive this grouping, and the person before us was one of those old school collector types, the kind of collector who, back in the day, like patch collectors would get a really nice World War One doughboy uniform, and they, the unit insignia that was on it was like some real rare, exotic variant, and so they would rip the fucking patch off of the tunic, and toss the tunic aside, or do whatever the hell with it, and then just put the patch in a little Riker board next to all the other rare unit patches they had, and think nothing of it. That's the kind of collector we got it from. We got it from a classic collector who plays by the old school rules, which was, so many people from W2 were still alive, and it was still such a present phenomenon in the nomenclature of people associating with it, people who lived through it, people who were in it. It wasn't seen as a big deal. The veterans weren't dropping like flies, and the first-person narrative as something remembered rather than something learned had a very different psychological dynamic going on, and collectors at the time reflected, not living in a vacuum, reflected what was the perception and the way people were perceiving those sorts of things in their environment at that time. And at that time, a nice uniform was a nice uniform, and no one even thought, back in the 60s and 70s, people weren't making reproduction. Saving Private Ryan was a long way off. People weren't making repro tunics and stuff. And the guy we got it from, he bought it from a garage sale. The guy had he had like a World War II ammo crate, some other crap out in front. And of course, this dude being a collector, striking up a conversation with the old guy who's long dead now, because he was older then. I think he was in his mid to late 30s when he was a tank destroyer officer in the 771st back in W2. But he just, the guy was like, "Oh, I got my uniform," and he brought it out. He didn't think anything of it. Free up some space. So he sold it to the collector, and for something ridiculously cheap. This is back in the day when you could buy a World War II Nazi German Iron Cross for like $2 or $3 without a ribbon, and on a good day, on a full retail day, like $10, $15. To compare that now, market research, current inflation, the actual financial statistical data on original World War II Nazi German Iron Cross second class examples that are original, you're looking at anywhere from really cheap, $150 to about anywhere from generally $175 to $200, perhaps more. Like if it's a court-mounted EK2 with like the butterfly ribbon, something real fancy, or a 900 silver. I have seen a few 900 silver iron cross. Those are the private purchase ones, like the court mountings. They might get the real nice, because the 800 silver ones are what were, the US DEGI, whereas the 900 silver ones, the vaulted ones, all those things, those are generally private purchase jeweler copies, which is not, doesn't mean it's a reproduction, not in the slightest. Those iron crosses would be valued at significantly more because you don't really see them. There's a rare, and I can't think of the name, there's a special name for it, collectors. People who know what's up know what I'm talking about here. It's an early type of second-class iron cross that was issued during World War II, where the swasti is like extra small and like fine. Those, of course, would be significantly more expensive. Kriegsmarine brass iron crosses, which again, there are ways to discern fakes from phonies. I don't even think they're really making fakes of those because most people don't even know. In fact, there's a lot of Mickey Mouse collectors who, when they think they're know-it-alls, they'll see one of those types of iron crosses and go, oh, it's a repro, because it looks a little bit different, and the typeface numbering for the 1939 stamp is a very specific, very thin font design compared to the thicker embossed 1939 on the standard, the non-brass. So yeah, people who have an inch but they're trying to take you a mile will write those off as fake. I've only ever seen 2 in the last 6 years that it's no question of whether or not they're genuine, because there's such an oddity as far as variants go that you don't really see them. So yeah, those would be valued at significantly more money. Although if you're lucky, the person will just give it to you in standard pricing, which, like I said, anywhere from $150 to $200. So tracing back to what I was actually talking about in the first place, of the tank destroyer uniform, the collector got it, was like, oh, this is neat, threw it in the closet with a whole bunch of other uniforms, another trophy that he, prize that he got, didn't bother to learn anything, whatever, pulls it out from the clothing racks of the uniforms that he's amassed over his 45 plus years of collecting, and was like, oh, this one's kind of neat, and I haven't looked at this in forever, man, this is really cool, but I don't need it, you can have it for this much if you want, which is enough that he is making a bundle of a return on his initial investment, which, like I said, was probably like 10, 15, 20 bucks, maybe, if that. Who knows? For this tank destroyer's uniform, we got it. We were able to get into it to enough to where we could make a profit, sell it for what it was worth. He could make a profit, and like I said, unfortunately, he didn't bother to learn the guy's name. It was just, a passing encounter at a garage sale. Struck up a conversation with the guy. He knew history and collector. The guy actually lived it, so there was some commonalities that they were able to strike up more than just small talk. And of course, he brought it out, bought it, but we don't have the name. And of course, some collectors would roll their eyes at this kind of attributing process. It's like, oh, there's no names or dates. And it's like, well, I don't really have the amount of stuff to put these kinds of uniforms together. I don't have that sort of skill. I don't have that patience. I don't have that time, and I really wouldn't want to, because being collectors ourselves, what we sell to you, it's like we think, okay, if I'm looking for something like this, would I want this or its equivalent in my own collection? And if the answer is yes, then we market it to you. If the answer is no, we generally pass, or we sell it so cheap that most likely another another seller, but someone who's undoubtedly a dealer, is buying this and, you know, try to flip it for a profit on some ginormous price that they just arrived to in their head. They didn't actually perform any market research. It's not based on the actual economics, the free market. It's just based on some ridiculous thing they pulled out of their butt, dreamed up in their own imaginary heads. So, yeah. With that being said, in closing, like I said, the research for this is ongoing. There is no name, but there is at least a face, if you want to call it that, to this grouping. And you don't see complete groupings like this, especially the Vietnam ones. You just don't see them. If you do, they're fragmented, sort of like this one, but more so. And it's just nice to find something like that. And if you're a collector like we are, you're going to look at this and say, hell yeah. But in the meantime, for lack of a more authoritative documentary source, let's delve more into the story, at least in general, of the Big Red One. And that way you can get an idea for what our Big Red sort of, what was happening with him on the larger scale of things. This is the 1st Infantry Division in Vietnam, 1965 to 1970, so it was produced when the war was still going on, so there is no fall of Saigon. We're still in after forever. The Big Picture presents the Big Red One, changing hearts and minds in yet another foreign entanglement. Land wars in Asia were not a good idea then, nor are they now. Category News and Politics license, standard YouTube license, published by Iguana Productions on April 16, 2012. Shout out to Iguana Productions. Here is the video. You'll see a link to the original source in the description below. And the playlist for this collection will have, more commentary as time goes on. So, that's it. Cheers.
Tell everybody. This is an open radio program. So, when you get ready to, make it all public, when you're going to let it all out, well, call me back. On my weird person line, you're on the air. Good morning.
Hello, Art.
Hello.
My name is Teddy.
Okay.
My friends call me Terrible Teddy. They think I'm kind of weird, and while I think I'm very normal.
Well, why do they think you're weird?
Well, I do have a fascination with death. You remember the videos, Faces of Death?
Oh, yes.
I rented it 27 times.
Really?
I find it mildly erotic. And
Really?
I don't know. I think that's normal, but I just think death...
Wait a minute. You think Death and Faces of Death was a videotape, for those who don't know, that depicted people dying in truly horrible, awful ways.
Oh, I loved it.
Really?
Yeah, and I think for some reason they say I have a coffee can full of old toenails, ranging from celebrities down to...
Wait. You collect toenails?
I have a toenail collection, that's right. It ranges from celebrities down to my neighbor, and I am quite proud of it, actually.
How, as a matter of interest, how do you get these toenails? I mean, it's not something you can ask people for.
Well, in fact, I do ask for them, and on occasion, if I notice someone is clipping their toenails, I'll wait politely till they're finished, and then collect them when they leave.
Do you sometimes have to do so covertly? In other words...
Well, as I say, I'm kind of proud of the toenail collection, and so I don't mind if someone sees me, and I'm not afraid to talk to them about it.
How many, you say you've got, well, give me an estimate. How many toenails do you suppose you have totally?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure the number, but a coffee can full is a good size and a large amount.
That's a lot of toenails. How long have you been collecting them?
For about 5 years, actually. I'm about ready to fill the can and start a new one, so it's exciting for me. Another day I found a very large ant in my backyard, and I wonder what these ants do during the day.
Yeah.
So I followed them for about 5 hours.
You spent 5 hours following an ant.
Through my backyard, my neighbor's yard, into the street, and across the street, and I'll tell you, he went down the sewer, and I lost him. It took a while to get the lid off, but to be honest with you, I think he gets me.
So in other words, by the time you were able to lift the lid,
he was gone.
He was gone.
Yeah,
but you spent 5 hours following an ant.
I thought it was very stimulating. I felt it was something they were going somewhere. They're very busy. I just wanted to know where, but he did get away from me. And apparently it's a long trip just across the yard, so like maybe they don't get too much accomplished, but they're very busy.
Well, how are you able to devote so much time to the Faces of Death 27 times, collecting toenails, following ants? I mean, these are time-consuming things.
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, I do sacrifice a lot of sleep. Of course, I do listen to your show often, and so that takes a lot of my time, and it gives me a chance also to engage in these activities. Because I have a portable radio and headphones and such. So you do kind of ride along with me now. That I think is weird, but...
As a matter of curiosity, you've got this coffee can full of toenails. How do you know which ones came from a celebrity?
Oh, I tagged them, of course.
You tagged them?
A little piece of masking tape to identify them ones. Some of them are just kind of run-of-the-mill, so I don't bother with that, but the very famous ones are people who I consider to be famous.
Give me a name or two famous toenails that you have.
Well, I've got hold on a second, let me see, I've got a list here. I did buy a set that someone told me came from Madonna's toes.
From who? Did you say Madonna?
That's right. I was in Los Angeles visiting at the time at a beach, and someone offered them to me, and I'm not sure if this was someone who you consider a toenail dealer, or he just was maybe playing a joke, but
Were these given to you freely, or
No,
did you have to pay
money for those.
You paid for them?
$165.
Oh my God.
And of course, I value those greatly.
All right, well, contact me privately because I've got some very famous nails for you. We've got a break here at the top of the hour, 9 on a scale of 10.
You're listening to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring a replay of Coast to Coast AM. December 21st, 1997.
We've got a break here at the top of the hour because I've got some very famous nails for you. All right. Did you say Madonna?
That's right. I've got
You've got this coffee can full of toenails. All right. Did you say Madonna?
That's right. I've got